people here who are joining us live. We are recording this amazing interview live during a day. It's 1 p.m. UK time. So we didn't expect many people live, but I know that there are so many women who want to see the recording of this session. So today it's a very exciting day because I'm having an amazing guest. His name is Victor. Actually, I met Victor a couple years ago, maybe 7, 8 years ago. I even don't remember when exactly it was. And actually, Victor was, I think you were the first coach who I was working with in my
Okay.
life. So that's interesting. And recently, our paths crossed again because I've noticed that Victor is doing so many interesting things and he shares his expertise on Instagram. And I noticed that recently he started working on topic of authentic masculinity. So Victor, would you like to introduce yourself to my community? Tell us a bit more about what you're passionate about.
First of all, it's so great to be here, even though I see only names and I know that some of you watching this live or gonna watch the recording. I just want to say that it's such a pleasure to be here. And I really want to acknowledge Magda for the work that she does because I think we cannot do enough work in this space. We just cannot. Um, and there's a real need for it. And what you do here is really important, as well as I really want to acknowledge you guys because the work that you do on yourself, it's not small thing. Like you taking this time out from your schedule and working on yourself is not small thing. It will benefit you and benefit everyone. And I think that's the very first step. So I really want to acknowledge you, Magda, and I really want to acknowledge you who is watching and listening now. Now, I'm Victor Shaggy. By trade, I'm a leadership and mindset coach, and I used to work in video game development. I'm from Hungary. That's where my accent is from. And I currently live in Glasgow with my wife. We have been married over 10 years, and we are happily married. And I've gone through my whole journey, which I will share about. So, Magda, shall I share more about the journey, how the innate man came about?
And if you like, I think it's very interesting, to share your journey because it actually brought you where you are now at the moment. So if that's okay for you, it'd be amazing. Yes.
Awesome, thank you. I think it will give a lot of context about the topic itself as well. Like, why are we talking about this? What is authentic man? Because my journey has been through like being nothing like that. Um, and then like going through the kind of work that you do on your part, I've been doing on my part. So first of all, I run this movement. I don't just look at it as a group. It's a movement called Innate Man. Innate, as in we're returning back to those things which are innate to us, which always has been there, right? So this is returning back to our authentic, innate masculinity. Now, I didn't set out to become a men's coach. And I think that's one thing about leadership is that through leadership, often you don't put yourself there, but you are kind of like invited, called into the space. And that's very much what happened with me. So, long story short, at the end of 2023, I was coaching 3 actors. And it was just a couple of conversations. We caught up at the beginning February of 2024. 3 months passed, and they have made huge improvements in their life. I didn't expect, honestly. And so I felt that there is something there. And they couldn't afford my one-on-one fees. And I thought, okay, that's cool, but I do want to serve them. And so I was thinking, what could we do? And I created a group, and that became Innate Man. Now, what happened then is like as soon as we started, I really quickly realized that like I hit a nerve. Like there is something here, something that I didn't expect. That men really need this kind of work, and it started to grow from a group into a movement. People started to refer other men's. Wives started to reach out to me because they saw the change in their husband. So it's like
Wow.
I didn't set out and I didn't expect this to become something. It was something that kind of like called me into it, right?
Wow.
So that's my journey has been. And last year, just like the group has taken off so much, and it's so beautiful because we, with many of the men who take on several of these groups, I caught up with them at the end of the year, and their life is just completely changed. Like they're a completely different person. Like something that I can call they are on the path of the authentic man, right? They are enjoying their life, they are self-aware, they are confident, and so on and so on.
Can I ask a
Sure.
question here? Because yeah, I love that you use word movement. It's not just a group, it's a movement. So when you use the word movement, it's something that just came to my mind. It seems that there is a need for it, that men need some leadership, they need some guidance, and the same with women, that the society where we live in is changing, it's so dynamic, and both men and women can sometimes feel a bit lost and confused because everything is changing. And I was wondering, because you take them on a journey, yes, you talk about the transformation, but I was just wondering, like, when they come to you, when they come to you, what is happening with them, like internally, what do they struggle with? What are their challenges? Can you talk a bit more about their journey when they start at and what happens to them, when they complete the journey? I know it's actually ongoing process, but we can grow and grow and grow. But yeah, I would like to hear about where they started, what shifts they make, what made them even reach out to you, because I think it's not an easy thing for a guy to reach out for help, So I would love to hear more about this aspect.
Yeah, that's so good. And yeah, one of the things, and we can talk more about this. You mentioned that it's not easy sometimes for them to reach out. One of the things is that, like, what do men want? Men want to feel competent, right? Like
Yeah,
while women have certain kind of expectation from society and from themselves, like the feminine role, so to speak, the masculine role itself has its own kind of expectations or roles, which is not good or bad. It's just what is. And men want to feel competent, right? That's why we want to fix things. And that's why, like it's important for us that we know or think that we're competent. And so sometimes one of the obstacles is actually for them to reach out for help because they perceive that it means that they are not competent, that they are weak, they are not a man, right?
exactly.
And that can be actually one of the obstacles. That can be one of the
Yeah.
obstacles.
It's
Now,
very
yeah,
interesting. Yeah. Sorry for interrupting. I just
please.
wanted to add something here because I've noticed a very similar behavior pattern with women, because previously was like maybe much easier for women to ask for help, but there are lots of women who are very independent, strong, and they also struggle to ask for help, when something is going on in their life. So I feel like in that sense, men and women are actually becoming quite similar, to show this vulnerable side. It's just the thought, sorry for interrupting.
Yeah, but that's great because when we talk about men and women, we're not necessarily talking about gender, right? That's an
Mm-hmm.
important foundation to address. We're talking about qualities, right?
Right.
So both men and women have masculine and feminine qualities within them which they embrace or got to embrace through a journey regarding who they are, right? It can be that someone is a gay man and maybe have more feminine, like or someone is a straight but more sensitive. Like me, for example, my journey was coming from an artist, someone who was stuttering and being bullied and being incredibly sensitive, to find my own strength and masculinity, right? So for other men, or for even women, it could be they maybe have a bit more masculine energy in them and find their way back to the feminine energy. So that's very interesting, actually, that you mentioned that when we feel we have to be strong in our life, and we think vulnerability, openness as a weakness, we might hold back on asking for help. And actually, what we do by that is that we make our life difficult, and we put obstacles in front of us which really not helping us and don't need to be there.
Oh my gosh, this is so good what you're saying. So true, because you are right. Many women who come to me, they look very feminine, they are successful women, beautiful, smart, but it doesn't mean that internally, they embrace this feminine energy. Very often they operate from masculine energy, yeah? So big for many reasons, because work can be very competitive, because, it doesn't feel safe to be feminine. So it's very, very interesting what you are saying, because I think lots of women who actually come to my program, they operate more in a masculine energy. And for them, it feels like they are weak when they ask for help. Yeah. And it's very difficult sometimes for them to embrace this vulnerable side and ask for help, yes, which also can affect their relationship with men, yes, which, by the way, we also discussed this topic. But coming back to what you do, so why men come to you, like what challenges they have, how they feel when they start the journey?
Yeah, so I break it down to the three disconnections, right? So there are three disconnections that happen in men. They disconnected from their needs, which show up as people pleasing. They cannot express their needs. And I used to be like that. I literally, when it was about to express my needs, I had got like jaw lock, and my wife was asking me 45 minutes, what do you want? And I just literally couldn't open my mouth. And so there are sometimes those men who are incredibly kind, have huge heart and a huge potential, but they just don't know how to use their power, right? So that's the first disconnection, like disconnected from your
Mhm.
needs, disconnected from your power, right? The second disconnection is disconnectedness from your emotions. So what some men
Mhm.
sometimes do is that there is this thing inside which we call emotions, all kind of emotions, right? And because they simply haven't developed the vocabulary, haven't developed the skill to deal with that, it's a scary thing. And so innocently, very innocently, the best thing they can do is just push it down. Just don't deal with it. It's just best if I
Mhm.
don't open that Pandora's box, right? So as a result, what happens then is they become emotionally unavailable. They feel numb in life. They become the hard or toxic man. They drink or do other vices because the emotions are there. And as soon as some kind of trauma happens, their mother dies or they got fired at work, they don't know how to deal with it. And then
Mhm.
all of these things, anger, like, because again, if you push it down, if you learn from your father that expressing emotions are not good, you're going to push it down, but it's still there. Pressure cooker, sooner or later it will come out, right? So that's
Yeah,
the
you
second
explode. Yeah.
disconnectedness.
Hmm. Oh, I love what you shared. Yeah. I think lots of women watching this live or recording, they would ask, is it possible to actually, I don't know, change if you change a man, or let's say change a man who is emotionally unavailable? Yes, because lots of women who come to me, they say, I attract men who are emotionally unavailable. this can change or not?
Okay, so I love this question because one thing that women love to do is fix men. Like that's a nice idea. There are books written on that subject. Like these are all my wife's books. She loves to read. I'm often curious about what are the things that she reads. I Most of them are not like that, but there is also a theme in that. It's a feminine and it's all well meant desire, right? And and so the thing is, we cannot change the other person. Like I was in a place in my relationship when I wanted my to change my wife, right? And the interesting thing that when we want to change the other person in the relationship, we kind of make that person more into that which we don't want. That's what I usually see because the person we are being in the relationship, actually, we are seeing that fault in the relationship all the time. And we speaking like that, we like trying to persuade or trying to manipulate or trying to like trying tactics to change the other person. And that's not relationship. It's a one-way
Yeah.
thing, right? It's not relationship. So in a relationship, there are two people. And if you imagine, like, let's say this is a relationship, right? Man, woman, or the man, man, the woman. In a relationship, if if let's say the woman changes, what happens? The other person changes with it as well, right? So what often happens, we try to change and it breaks the relationship, right?
It's a good metaphor, very good
Yeah, I just came up
metaphor.
with it. Um, But what actually the way we can change is that we change in the relationship and we start to see the other person in a different way and the other person will respond in a different way. And I experienced the very thing with my wife. Like it came from, and she has been my biggest teacher. It came from me actually wanting, like, always being unsatisfied with her, I thought, and with our relationship. It became into like I'm excited growing old with her. Like I'm excited about the next year because the last 5, 6 years, every year was better than the previous. Right? So
Beautiful.
that's what's available. But it's only available through me doing my inner work, seeing her in different way, communicating better with her, praising her, drawing out those things. Like this is like, I mean, this can be a really inspiring story if you open to it, but like there was a real change for me when I saw how me seeing my wife in a certain way, making my wife into that person in a way. And as soon as I changed my perspective, over time she started to change. Like that's very weird, but talks about something very profound about we only get in life that which we are.
And we attract who we are as
We
well, you
attract who
know?
we are and we only see. So, for example, if I have the belief that people are untrustworthy, we can be on this call. You can be the most trustworthy person. I'm going to find every single situation, either how you are untrustworthy or if you trustworthy, even then I'm going to reframe or act towards you in a way that you become untrustworthy after a while,
Mm-hmm.
to
I
me.
agree with you. Yes, 100%. And I see this very often with women who come to my community when I have conversations with them. I would call it like a filter. You know, each of us has got some kind of filter, which is coming from the past, our childhood, our experiences with men, in our case, women. Yes, if we were looking for a man. I see that lots of women have these filters. You know, sometimes they come to me and say only scammers are on dating sites. and they only see scammers because they focus on scammers. Or I only attract cheaters and liars, yeah? Or I only attract men who are emotionally unavailable, yeah? And what you said is really powerful because you are right. It starts within, yes? When we start working on our mindset, on our love blocks, when we start working on our filters and sabotaging behaviors, then also the external reality is shifting, you know, and you provide this beautiful example with your wife, which actually I can see with my clients who are dating. Yes. So at the beginning of their journey, you know, there are many sabotaging behaviors. I only see men who are cheaters, liars, scammers. And then after doing some inner work, applying, you know, the right strategy, they start seeing good guys. They exist. Yes. They are looking for a authentic, loving relationship. There are good men out there, and I'm sure that you can confirm it. Victor, first, you are an example of it. You know, you've
Mm.
been in a beautiful marriage for many years. You are very committed to your relationship. Every time when I speak to you, I can tell, you know, how beautifully you speak about your wife. It's not the first time on this webinar. Honestly, I still remember this about you, that you always speak about your wife in a really good way. I never heard you complaining, you know, it's always, you know, she's a beautiful woman in my life, and I'm committed to this relationship. I think it says really a lot about you and your marriage. Yeah.
Mm.
Uh, so I just also wanted to acknowledge this.
Mm. Thank you. It means a lot. It means a lot.
Oh,
And
you're
and yes,
welcome.
and it has been a journey. Like we almost
Mm-hmm.
divorced a couple of times and we had like silly things. Like I've done silly
Mm-hmm.
things, right? So it's like it has been a work. Um, so coming back to, I'm just trying to come back to
Yes, the
what you
topic of
really.
your, yes, what type of men you work with? Like, what are their challenges?
Yeah, actually we talked about two of the disconnection, but there is a third one.
Mhm.
Okay?
Uh-huh.
So the third one is disconnected from the community, right?
Oh, that's an interesting one as well. Uh-huh.
So while the first one was disconnected from their needs, the second one disconnected from their emotions, the third one disconnected from their community. So many men, and I'm sure women as well, so you might like, hey, that's me too. Even though we talk about men, it could be
Mm-hmm.
very much applicable to women as well. It just might be in a
Definitely.
slightly different color or costume, right? So men being disconnected from their community means that they don't have that village around them anymore. It's like they grow up, they are in a 9 to 5, or they are, I don't know, could be a student, could be like middle age, could be in a relationship, not in a relationship, but they don't have friends. They don't have people to talk to. They don't have places they can open up. They don't have places where they are seen. And that's very
Mm.
interesting because I heard a really interesting sentence from a guy who is excellent in group facilitation. And he said to me, which stayed with me to this day, is that we get hurt in groups and we heal in groups.
Hurting and healing.
Maybe better to say we get hurt in relationships and we heal in relationships.
Uh-huh. Oh yeah, that's a good one. Mm-hmm.
So I give you an example of like literally what is it that I experience. Like 50% of the value of my groups happens when I'm not there. It's not me who brings in
Mm-hmm.
50% of the value. It's the group existing, the village existing in
Mm-hmm.
itself. So often what happens, and I consciously withdraw sometimes from the group to let them be, right? And let them see each other.
Mm.
So something, for example, we can do is just we do at the beginning of the conversation a check-in. And the way a check-in goes is I say, hey man, may I check in? And I genuinely wait for a response. They can say yes, they can say no. It's okay, right? And then I share what's alive in me. So, for example, what's alive in me? is like I feel this kind of connectedness to you, Magda. I feel this kind of like real depth of conversation. It really makes me feel alive. And, I'm just really enjoying this conversation. That's alive in me right now, right? So I share that and I say, that's me checking out. And what do the others do? Nothing. They just see me. So they're not allowed to, and it's not their job to give advice, to give comment, anything. They just say, thank you. Thank you for sharing. And the
Mm-hmm.
simplicity of me being seen, what did happen? I just expressed myself fully. I checked in with myself. I gave myself the permission to say what's inside, and the
Mm-hmm.
others saw me. Because what's our biggest fear? Being
Being seen.
judged,
Mm-hmm.
being a failure, being ostracized,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's our biggest fear. It's bigger than death. Public
Mm-hmm.
speaking. What's that about? Others judging us, abandoning us. That's our biggest fear.
Rejection. Yeah.
That's why we try to be perfect and strong and whatever. Because that's a
Mm-hmm.
protective mechanism for us not to be judged and abandoned. If we are perfect, we're
Mm-hmm.
not going to be abandoned. A really good sentence for perfectionism, it's fear in tuxedo.
Oh,
Perfectionism, it's not mine. But I love
that's a
it.
good one. You have some really good quotes. I love
Yeah,
them.
I'm like, when I heard this, it's a perfectionist fear in tuxedo. Yeah, we are fearing, there is a
Mm-hmm.
weakness within us, so to speak. Not like it's a bad thing, but there is something in us which fears, and the way we dress it up is in a tuxedo of perfection, right? So
Mm.
coming back, sorry,
Yeah,
just
go
let me
ahead.
finish this. And
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
so coming back to the checking in, when I just fully express myself and it's not judged, it's not fixed, it's not, and I'm sure this is what women often would really appreciate is just to be seen, but for men as well, it's just to be seen and just said, thank you. That's powerful. In a group, in a community, and that's how that's how we connect the third thing, community, right? So we talked about connecting the first thing, disconnectedness of the need, which is like the way you connect, you learn that your needs are okay, you are worthy as a person regardless of what's in your life, and you start practicing expressing your needs. Disconnected emotionally, we start to explore and create awareness around what's going on inside, and you practice your skill of dealing with that. And the third disconnectedness and the way we connect that is that we start to show up in a community. And when you practice it in a safe container, then you can go out in the world and you can practice it in a bit, less safe container, so to speak.
Exactly. Actually, that's what I wanted to say. Exactly the same thing
There you
that
go.
yes, we are connected, that it's a safe container. So you learn the skills, yes, you build your confidence because when you feel safe to feel seen in a group, in a safe container, then as you said, then you go out, you interact with women. That's what I've heard from many men, that sometimes they are afraid of rejection when it comes to dating and relationships. Yeah. And you
Mm.
mentioned about this, we human beings are afraid of rejection, of judgment, failure. So, that's why so many men are holding themselves back, I guess, also in dating and relationships because they don't want to get hurt, they don't want to feel abandoned. Yes. So you actually create this beautiful, safe container for them to embrace who they are, yes, and as you said, be a part of the community. It's so powerful, yes, because I really believe in brotherhood. I believe that communities make us stronger. I love communities, I love groups, movements. I am personally also a member of some groups for women. Also, I create, my container for women, and I see so many similarities. There are so many women who would say that they have like a sisterhood wound Maybe some men have a brotherhood wound, because they have some bad experiences with men or women in the past. Sometimes people come to me and say, I don't like groups. I don't want to talk about my imperfections in front of other women. Yes, what they will think about me. But once they develop this trust, they actually become stronger. Yes, they have this supportive community, they open up, and as you said, they learn how to be more vulnerable with a small container, with a small group of women, and then they bring it to the real world. So, oh my gosh, this is so beautiful what you are doing, honestly, and it's so much needed as well, for men, for both men and women. But personally, I don't know if I'm right, I hear about more movements, communities, groups for women than for men. There are plenty of them. Honestly, I don't hear much about things which you do for men, honestly. So I think it's something very, very unique. So also wanted to acknowledge this.
Yeah, absolutely. And like that's really important as well. Like from what I learned and heard is that men actually become like men more often commit suicide, um, while women more prone to depression. Usually, like this is very, very generalizing, but men more like prone to actually follow through, and that's a huge problem. And
Yes.
one of the problems is that men probably um, have a harder time to seek help, accept help, because it's like if I'm accepting help, I'm weak and I'm not as much of a man. So when you are in a tough spot anyway, and you feel like maybe a failure anyway, the last thing that you want to do is just to expose yourself more, while that's the very thing you would need, not to expose yourself, but to like reach out for help. So it's just a bit of an irony that sometimes when we are in that tough spot, we kind of don't want to do the very thing that we would very much need.
I agree with you. Yeah, I also heard about this research that, yeah, unfortunately, lots of men, commit suicide, more men than women. And as you said, more women probably have depression and anxiety than men. But yeah, you are right. They need this community because I think we thrive in communities. Yes, I think it's our evolution as well, like when we think about some ancient time, we lived in communities, yes, and now we live in a very disconnected world, especially in Europe. I've been traveling quite a lot in my life. I spent a bit of time in Latin America and Asia, and I would say that people are more connected there. They have more like a community. They have more community. They spend more time with family and friends. My husband is originally from India. I've been there several times. And all those gatherings are so important for them. Honestly, it's like they celebrate, somebody's birthday, they always find the time to celebrate, honestly. And I think we people living in Europe, we are like really more focused on productivity, getting things done. I would say that we live in my opinion, a very masculine word, but in a bad sense, that we don't really value connections, that we don't really value vulnerability, that we don't value communities. Yeah, I think things are shifting slowly after
Mm.
COVID. But again, I just was wondering what are your thoughts, on this, that we actually live in a quite disconnected world, and that can actually lead, to some mental health problems and things like that.
Yeah, I can only agree with that. I think it's also a modern age thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is because like I just know from my life, I'm just coming from a networking group. Like this morning, that's what I did.
Mm-hmm.
And I know networking is good for business, but it's also good for my
Mm-hmm.
mental health. I know when I get out, like I work here. Like if someone is a client, this is what they see. I'm here all day mostly. Um, so for me to move out and meet with people is really important, and I see this with men as well, or anyone and anyone. Is
Mm,
I think that kind of connection is a bit of a lost art or a lost value, and I just love this word for myself of village. Like I'm just every time I
mhm,
say like you can build a business on village. It takes a village, they say. It takes a village to raise a child. It takes a village to whatever. I think we kind of lost that, which you beautifully shared about, is that we are designed as human beings for tribes, for villages, right?
mhm.
That kind of small
Exactly.
community. And it's possible to have that today. Nothing holds us back, but we have to be conscious about it because our environment by default set up in a different way. It's set up in a very global, international, widely connected way. So we get so much good stuff from like that's good. We have access to so many information which like got our life just better. So if you look at the life quality over the years, it goes up. But one of the hidden thing is that with that wide availability, we lose the intimate availability. So
Mhm,
we have a wide net, but we lose the intimacy. So even with dating, it's so easy to cast your net wide, but what are the costs of that, right? There are benefits, for sure. I get it, and I think it's great. But what are the costs? And the good thing is, if we know the costs, we can be
mhm,
conscious about it. So when I'm thinking about you and conscious dating, that's what I'm thinking about. Through being conscious, we can use what's strength and we can kind of work on or fix what's a cost, right? So when it
mhm.
comes to dating, you can use the apps, you can use whatever, but when you are able to go about it a little bit more consciously, then you can use it better and you're not going to be hurt by the system or the environment, but you can actually take advantage of it.
Yes, it's so, so true. Yes, because yes, as you said, it's more global. It's so easy to connect with somebody who lives in a different on a different continent. But at the same time, it's, we feel lonely. We are disconnected. We don't know our neighbors, It's so difficult to start a conversation with a stranger. So yeah, I agree with you 100%. Another thing, because you also talk about authentic masculinity. And when you mentioned this to me, I was like, oh my gosh, I love this term. It's mind blowing. Please tell us what is actually authentic masculinity? I would love to hear more about this.
It's yeah, first of all, thank you, and I love it too. um, So it's interesting because in a way, the way I think about authentic masculinity, like we could talk about authentic femininity at the same time, right? It's kind of that journey of authentically be us, right? Now, when we talk about authentic masculinity, there are a couple of uh, key characteristics, right? And I'm thinking about authentic masculinity as being uh, comfortable and embracing what it means to be a man, what it means to be masculine, or or that masculine part of ourselves. So even for women could be like embracing that which is masculine quality. Because here is the thing, like the way I was able to, I shared about that I was like very sensitive growing up, an artist. I stuttered, I was bullied, I was like a black sheep, a geek, still a geek, but like
Mhm,
I had really, really hard time with my masculinity, as in like strength, right?
mhm,
Um, like standing up for myself and confrontation and taking a stance and working on a mission and like these kind of things. And Actually, to me, it happened through meeting with my wife now, partner at the time, and she was the opposite. She was more in her masculine as a woman, right?
Mm-hmm.
So through us kind of like in the relationship, finding ourselves, which was messy in its own way, we kind of given permission to ourselves to be in the other role, like for me to be in the man's role, for her to be in the woman's role, and that has been a journey. It it wasn't like this, right? And I slowly got to explore those things which I shunned down. So it's not like my authentic masculinity wasn't there. It's just I haven't explored and haven't developed the skill around using my masculine side. Does it make sense?
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, it's
Right?
very, very.
So
Hmm.
the journey, and this is why innate man, because it's innate in us, right? So the journey is actually seeing what's in the way of us being an authentic man, which is what we talked about, the three: disconnection, disconnecting from needs,
Hmm.
disconnecting from emotion, disconnecting from community, seeing the gap, the obstacles, through
Hmm.
seeing, slowly working through and removing them, and it's there. So you kind of like rediscover what is it to be a man. And then an important part which then shows up for women on the women's side, right? We talked about the sisterhood. For men, it's like heal your relationship to man in your life, your father, your brother, your brothers, your friends, like just in men in general. Healing your relationship to man in your life will also be a vehicle to heal your relationship to your own masculinity. Or it can work the other way around. As you heal your relationship within your own masculinity, you start to heal the relationship in your life, those who are,
Like a domino effect.
yes.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree with you. So again, it starts with you. Once you start working on your masculine energy, then it will reflect, on your relationship with others. But tell me how you can heal your masculine energy, because I know it's a process. We probably can't cover this today. Hopefully you have another conversation soon and we could maybe explore it more in depth. But just something you would like to share, how to actually become more authentic, yes? How to heal your
Oh, okay. So
relationship with.
yeah, so that's really good. Actually, this is something I wanted to talk about. And of course, like, these kind of things, like we just, so to speak, educate um, on the territory. So like kind of like we drawing a map now. So so people who watch this, they understand what's going on in this territory, right? But actually walking the path, doing the work is a different thing. And
Of
we can cook up
course.
something we talked about that we might do some kind of follow up, right? So we can cook up something if we want. And the women are already doing great work in your group. So that's what it is really. Um, so the healing goes through a journey of like seeing what's there, self-discovery, and then through that, you know, like this kind of reconnection. If we talked about the three disconnectedness, starting to connect through awareness to those
Mhm.
three things and being more connected to what's inside you. Now, there is one specific thing which is I see more for men. I mean, that is a equivalent for women for that too, but um, for men, it's more talked about, which is called initiation, right?
Mhm.
Initiation is when a boy becomes a man,
Mhm.
right?
In
And
many
so,
cultures, people have, yes, men
yeah,
go through, yeah, this
and
process.
some men never get initiated and become and still
Mhm.
a boy, even they 40, 50, 60.
Mm. But how would they go through
we
this
call them man
process in
child.
Europe? Mindset. I think, yeah, I know what you talk about. Having lots of women met this type of man, but how can go through this process in Europe, in Western countries, how this would look like?
Okay, I'm gonna tell you a very recent example. I'm not gonna enclose anything about this person that's personal because it's
Mm-hmm.
personal and it's
Yeah, of course.
uh, um,
Confidential.
protected by confidentiality. But I can talk about in general. Like
Mm-hmm.
I've been in conversation. We're not working together yet by any means. I've been having conversation through WhatsApp with this guy, and he has some things, right, which he perceives as faults, and like he kind of like needs to work through, and he finds having a difficult time going out in the world, and so the only safe space for him currently is his mother, and like the home, right? But at the same time, he also feels suffocating there. So we've been having conversations, and he started to see what's going on in him, how his life is, how his relationship is. He started to reframe those things about himself that he's been so ashamed about, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I just got a message uh, this morning from him. Is like he had a deep conversation with his father, and his father told him, like, if you're gonna go to this new country, don't do don't go there and live for someone else's dream. Live your own dream. And it's like he said, you can't imagine, Victor, like I've never had such a relationship with my father, and now I'm having that. Then he has this girl in the coffee house who he always wanted to ask out. He asked that girl out. The girl said yes. We don't know where it's gonna go, but he did it. And now he's planning to come to the UK to make his life. He does the hard things, right? So initiation, if you think about it, what was it for? So we can think about either that's a tribe or that's a village. So in a tribe, it could have been um, hunt a lion. I'm just making this up, right? Hunt a lion.
Mm-hmm.
It's a hard thing to do, right? And likely it's going to require things of you which you don't know that you are prepared of. But the man inside of you is prepared of. The boy is not yet. In a village, it could look like take on an important responsibility in the family business. The boy inside of you is not prepared for that. The man is. So, in a way, the boy has to break for the man to come out. And who is a man? Who can take responsibility. A boy is someone who is dependent on her mother and dependent on others.
Mm-hmm.
A man is someone who others can be dependent on.
I love this difference. I love how you explain this. Mm-hmm.
Right? And that only happens through hardship. The boy has to break
Mm-hmm.
in order to the man to emerge. So that's why in cultures they instinctively broke the boy so the man can come out. In today's world, it can be simply you face those things which you've been putting off and being
Face
afraid.
challenges,
Yes,
responsibilities. Mm-hmm.
yes.
Can be moving to another city or country or taking, I don't know, starting a business or.
Committing to a relationship,
Mm-hmm.
like for example, like my kind of initiation was, I remember that we were
Mm-hmm.
sitting on the bed with my wife, and she's like joking with me, like, "Hey, like, what if we would get married or something?" Like, oh, like I'm not ready. I don't want to do this. And she like, not this ring, but she has a silver ring, and she's like, I bet you don't dare to take this on. She was really, really clever. And like I felt the fear. I felt in that moment, somehow I was present to all this fear, this which have been holding myself back in all of my life of commitment,
Mm-hmm.
right? And in that moment, I saw that fear. I didn't feel it, so it didn't change or pass away. I was just so present to it. And with that fear, I said, I'm going to do it. I took that on. The next day, I walked out of the door. I felt like everyone is watching me, like, oh my God, what's going to happen? And you know what happened? Nothing. So then I realized, like, okay, maybe my belief around commitment wasn't as airtight. Maybe it wasn't as true, right? So like I started to face that. And I had like initiation points in my life when I faced something that I was super scared of. But as soon as I stepped into that with that fear, I came out more of a man on the other side, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I love what you said, honestly. But I just a thought because I'm working with women, they share lots of stories with me, and they say to me sometimes that they date men who we could say that they went through this process already. You know, they have successful job, they move to another country. I don't know, they move mountains in their life, face lots of challenges, but they can be very masculine, let's say, in one area of their life, let's say at their work or career or business. But I've noticed, this is just my observation, that sometimes it's difficult for some men to bring this healthy masculine energy to relationships because, for example, they're afraid of commitment because they're not emotionally available. What's on this? Because that's what I think. Somebody can be very masculine in one area of their life, but it doesn't mean that it will be exactly with the on this in the same energy, when it comes, for example, to dating and relationships.
Yeah, absolutely. That's it. Like, someone can be really and what is masculine? Like that's another thing. Like it can
Mm-hmm.
look in many different ways. And what comes up for me, I don't know how much this is gonna make sense, but I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
try it. So what comes up for me is like I imagine the work that I do and we do with man as in like some like meeting in the middle or like bringing two things together. So on one hand there is this like kind, big-hearted, almost like people pleaser man. On the other hand there is this like hard macho, but that kind of like toxic macho man, right? It's like and
Mm-hmm.
very kind of like go 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 and maybe close down emotionally. um both actually can really be afraid of commitment because commitment
Mm-hmm.
requires a emotional maturity, and even if
Mm-hmm.
someone is available of commitment, it doesn't mean that they are able to make that commitment healthy, right? So there
Mm-hmm.
is always kind of like a maturity of the man, right? A maturity of who we are. So I think it's like they might be over here where they are very like hard and successful over there, but and very masculine in energy. So there is a masculine energy. So here there is not too much masculine, more feminine energy in
Mm-hmm.
man, right? People pleaser, very, very nice.
Yeah.
Here's a very masculine, maybe that's more in balance, right? And
Mm-hmm.
they actually, the very masculine, their journey going to be to the center is exploring that's what they're missing out on of more the feminine aspects within themselves, more the emotions, what's going on, like what am I really afraid of that makes me afraid of commitment, right? They're gonna need a bit more self-exploration in that sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. I love that. Um, so Yeah, I like that you explain this difference, because yes, we can define masculinity in many different way, yeah. And you mentioned that you work with men who can be like people pleasers, maybe they have problem with boundaries, yeah, they are more like in a maybe a bit more feminine energy, and men who are more in a masculine energy in a sense that, they can be maybe
Too
good at their
much.
work, they do lots of things, they're productive, but they are emotionally distant, they are not emotionally available. So both types of men need to do some work. It's very interesting because even when you talk about this, I think about my clients, and I'm like, oh, it's so similar because there's a group of women who are very strong, independent, self-sufficient, but they need to work on their feminine to open their heart, for the relationship to let love in. And we have a group of women who are, maybe more feminine, but they lose their power so quickly. Again, there are people pleasers, they don't have boundaries. So there are some similarities. Again, very, very interesting. Um, so let's talk about dating and love now a bit more. I know that we already started this topic, it's all exciting. And my question is like, your thoughts on this topic. What is actually holding men, or maybe both, men and women from finding love? We also had like a short conversation yesterday with Victor. We exchanged some WhatsApp messages. And we both agree, that it's something more internal. It's not just about the strategy, where to go, how to meet high value men, how to set up a dating profile, what text message I should send. It's not external. So, what are your thoughts on this? Why so many people, can't find the one and they go, through the journey?
Mm, I love that. You might saw me like thinking a lot, or searching and connecting things, because I think like it's so beautiful what you guys do here, and I always see dating, even though I'm married, I'm like so interested in dating. I was already married, and I kept learning about dating, but because there is so much psychology in it, and in a way, receiving love and receiving money or receiving anything uh, is like very similar, like connected. So there is, although we can be very good at receiving money and not so good at receiving love, or the other way around, right? So depending on what's our belief around that specific subject, and how much do we believe that we deserve it, right? Because we talked about that we're gonna be only able to see that which we are. So for example, if I'm not if if I own if I see that and if I see that every man is a cheater, maybe there is something in me that I haven't healed. So I'm not really open to relate to be attracted to be aroused by men who are not that kind of type, right? So I'm gonna subconsciously find that man who is eventually a cheater, or I'm gonna treat that person so that person gonna cheat. Like very often I see this thing. I actually coach a woman. Again, I'm not going to enclose any kind of personal details. I coach this woman whose partner is very, very jealous, right? Now, one of the things in that, it's so easy to see that while this woman would really love to be committed to this man, because the man is being jealous, it's almost like the man pushes away as soon as she is trying to connect to him. Like this man, like it's just as soon as it doesn't align with his reality of women are cheaters and gonna leave him, he's like rejecting that information, right? So we rejecting that which we haven't healed yet, right? So
Mm,
so that's why it's an internal work of like we talked about this like continuum. Like, for example, if I'm very much on the like the masculine side and having, like some, like I work with some women, some of them are really like well put together. Like honestly, for one man, they would be, or for some men, they would be kind of frightening a little bit because they're so well put together, right? And when you like really get to know them and understand, you see that it's all a way for them to not get hurt. Like just keep
Mm-hmm.
like just one arm length away, because guess what? If I'm perfect, if I'm not open, I'm not gonna get hurt. That's very much true. But what else I'm not gonna get? Love. You cannot have one and not have the other. Like love requires you to open up to being hurt as well. The difference is that you can get more skillful in the whole thing, right? That's the difference,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why it's good to work with someone like yourself. So I don't know if I went off tangent or not, but this is like what I see is that eventually the thing is that when we want to have something in our life, we really need to heal. And often that one thing is actually part of the hurt that needs to be healed. So for me to, if I would be single again and I would really want a relationship, probably that me wanting would be the very obstacle. So I would need to become good with myself and give the love myself that I am looking for. Because guess what? If I'm giving the love to myself that I'm looking for, I'm gonna just radiate. Like that's gonna be really attractive. If I'm like, I'm good, I'm enjoying my life, I'm enjoying myself, you know what? Like I'm an awesome guy, like this is a good life, like hey, let's have fun. I and I'm on purpose, like that's attractive, right? In opposed to like
Being desperate, yes,
desperate,
being
I
in
need
a
you, right? Like
mm-hmm.
so that itself can be the obstacle. And that's why I say it's weird, because when we are in it, we don't see it. We don't see that that's the problem. We see obviously the problem is that I don't have good men in my life, or there are no good men at all. That's how it looks like. It honestly looks like that's the problem. But that's not the
Oh my
problem.
gosh.
That's the perception. That's the product of my perception. And the reason I have that perception, because I haven't been healed. That's it. Once I heal,
So powerful.
that's why what happens very often, and we all saw it. Someone really wants a relationship. One time she gives it up, boom, it comes like they meet in the coffee house or whatever, right? They just meet. She tried for years and years and years, wanted so much. She's like, you know what? Like, it's just too much. I let it go. Boom, next week, she meets someone. Because of that,
Mm-hmm.
she changed
I
inside.
confirm. I confirm. It was actually part of my story as well. I remember a year when I was really dating a lot. Honestly, I had so many apps on my phone. I was going on so many dates and I met so many people. I always was good at meeting people, but every time something was off, and at some point it became a bit frustrating, and I was like, at some point I was like, okay, I'm taking a small break, I think I just need
Mm,
to look inside, because
yeah.
it's not about men, it's not about them, I know if I went on, I don't know, 20 dates or 30 dates within a few months, and every time something was off, I'm like, okay, no, I need to take a break. It's time to put dating on hold. And I remember that was a time when I started really doing a lot of inner work. I've started thinking about my beliefs, what I really think about men, So, like that men, oh, are they not ready for commitment? That maybe that, they are looking just for fun or after, sabotaging thoughts and limiting beliefs, I really like was very honest with myself. It wasn't easy, I had to challenge myself a bit, and I also work with someone at that time. So I really had to be like super honest with myself. And I think it's not easy because sometimes ego is protecting us, and ego is like so strong and powerful. And I was like, oh, I have a master degree in psychology. I read so many, books on dating and relationships, and people come to me when they have dating problems. It was like 8 years ago, when I was at this stage, 7, 8 years ago. And I'm like, why I can't figure out this? I'm a smart person, I can do many things in my life, but for some reason, I can't be really also objective about myself. And that's another thing, because even if we're smart, I don't know, successful, we have lots of qualities, sometimes we're just not objective about ourselves. Yes, we need a mirror. We can do some inner work on ourselves. That was the start of my journey. I really started working on my beliefs, doing lots of journaling, affirmations. But at some point, we also need a mirror, somebody who will hold this mirror for us, and maybe identify some blind spots, maybe connect some dots as well. Yeah. And I think in my case, that was super, super, super powerful. And that's also what I'm implementing now when I work with my clients. Yeah. So when they come to me, I actually ask them to take a break because for some reason, what they do doesn't work. So very often they
Mm.
need to unlearn some behaviors, they need to change thinking patterns, they need to work on the energy. And then once they are ready, then we focus on the fun things like creating a profile, going out. Yes, if we don't do this inner work, then we just keep repeating the old patterns. Yes, we keep attracting the same type of people. So I just wanted to say that I resonate what you said.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. That's it. You said it so beautifully. I love how you like often when they go into working with you, probably they have been trying to date in one way or another for whoever knows how long. And so one of the things sometimes that could make sense is to take a break, like physically, emotionally, so you can give themselves the permission to not have all consumed by this thing and do a bit of inner work. And once they kind of like ready, then they can start to play with like a renewed sense of like a fresh perspective. They can play in that uh, arena again.
Exactly. And I also love what you said about self-love, because it comes to self-love and self-worth. Yes, because once you become this best version of yourself, I don't know, radiant, powerful, somebody who has got the sense of self-worth, you feel worthy of love, sorry, then you also start attracting different type of people. Yes, if we date from a place of lack or fear, then we also attract people who will reflect this to us. Yeah.
Mm.
So that's what I've noticed many times.
Yes, absolutely. And you know what I see in my work, like we work on many things, but in its core, everything comes back to self-love. And when you don't get it, it can sound like fluffy or woo-woo or whatever. But when you actually do a lot of work and like you do very practical work, but you see that underneath the core there is self-love. Why? It's very, very simple. Because we only gonna give ourselves permission to have things that we genuinely believe we deserve. So if I don't believe that I deserve a healthy relationship, guess what? Either I'm not going to find it, or I'm going to self-sabotage, which can either look self-sabotage during the dating phase, or it can look self-sabotage like as soon as, let's say, you are in a relationship, as soon as things are actually going well, you're going to create some kind of drama because you're just not
Mm.
comfortable. It just feels weird not having drama in your life. right? So then like your mind starts to think about like, oh, like, something is not right, maybe I'm not feeling well, maybe this is not that relationship, like. And I had my own version. My version was this kind of unfulfilled, like, this cannot be it, like, what am I missing out? What if I die and this was my life? And as soon as, like, I'm very, very lucky with my like uh, Anita, my wife, she's good at exactly in what I'm not good at. And it's like she is very like relationship centered. And to me, like, I didn't appreciate that for a very, very, very long time. And as soon as our relationship was good, my life was good, I I couldn't take it. Like, it just didn't sit right with me. So I went into this mental kind of like anguish, and that obviously then created the drama, and suddenly I felt home again. Right?
It's something what I actually call a love blueprint because
Okay.
I believe that each of us has got something like this. It's coming from childhood, from our past experiences. And some people associate love with drama, or they associate love with intensity, or they associate love with
Mm,
chasing, with overgiving, with many like toxic behaviors. Yeah, so that's also something what I work on, by the way, with my clients, because I work on their blueprint, what love is for them, or it was in the past, and what is this new blueprint, because a new healthy blueprint requires a different approach.
mm, love it.
So very interesting.
It's
And
amazing.
also, yeah, and I agree with you. Even during the dating phase, I've noticed this, that many women who don't have a healthy love blueprint, they actually don't go for a healthy love. They go for drama, or they go for a spark. They go for a chemistry very often. Oh, there is such a strong chemistry. He's the one. They don't think about compatibility,
Mm,
and they don't think that much about, for example, emotional connection, emotional availability. So for me, there are a few important components when it comes to finding love. It's not just a physical attraction. Of course, we need to feel attracted to person who we date, who we are in a relationship, but it's not enough. We need compatibility, we need emotional connection, we need to have some sort of similar vision. Of course, there always will be something to work on, but if we don't have a strong foundation, then it's very difficult, to actually build a healthy, loving relationship.
yeah, yeah. I love that. And there are a couple of other points that I kind of prepared, and also I'm kind
Mhm.
of mindful that in a 15 minutes or so I'm gonna need
Yes.
to go.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, so I prepared a couple of points, and I think what would be also interesting is the difference between how men and women usually communicate, as well as how men and women uh, go about sexuality, or what's the nature of masculine feminine sexuality. So
Okay.
I think it would be interesting to maybe share a
Okay.
couple of points on those.
Yeah, sure. Sounds
Shall
exciting.
shall
Yes.
we?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yes.
So about communication, there is a really great book which is called Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus.
Yes, I know this book.
Yeah, and so we talked about that men like to be competent,
Mm-hmm.
right? The masculine role in general is we are the we are who get things done. Like we also can talk about like masculine energy. So women who get things done might have a masculine energy, right? The women more is the nurturing, right?
Mm-hmm.
The energy itself. Obviously, we can have both. Like I'm a very nurturing person. I have a lot of feminine qualities, and I love that, right? And because I love that, I can also embrace my masculine. And by the way, like that's what we talk about, the authentic man. Whoever you are, whatever makeup you have, when you round round yourself out, when you are whole, right? Or more and more whole. It's not like an on-off switch, it's a continuous journey. Then when you are more and more in your authentic self, authentic masculinity, femininity. So coming back to this, men like to be competent, they like to have things done, they love to fix things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Women, different. So let me drop a scenario. Woman comes home from work. She had a rough time. Like really, the colleagues were like mean. Like there was a lot of work. Hard day. She starts to tell her partner of like, Amy did this, that bitch did that, and then this happened, and the husband comes like, you should do this, like you should just this is this, and and she's like, you're not listening to me,
Oh my gosh, I know the scenario.
right? And he's like, I am listening, I just given you solutions. And she's like, no, you never listen to me. I always listen, I always tell you what to do, right? So what are they looking for?
Mm-hmm.
So in this case, the woman looking to just be seen, received, just to vent, just to be heard, nothing else. It's a different language. So it's not like one is better or than the other. We just speak different languages. Now, when
Mm-hmm.
we become fluent in the language or we understand, then we can be much more compatible with each other, right? I am very much the same. I had to learn not to offer fixes to my wife all the time, right? So I just listen when I perceive I listen. Or if I'm not sure, I can ask, what do you need from me? Are you looking for advice or do you just want to be heard? Right? Magic. Okay.
Magic. It can really create lots of magic in a
Yeah.
relationship.
Also for women is to understand when the man offers solutions, that's his best attempt to be useful and to love you. He just don't know how to handle because that's what he thought.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he thinks is being a man means. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Right? He
Yeah.
don't want to be a jerk, don't want to not listen to you. He just don't know that listening means listening. He thinks listening means offering solutions, right?
Yeah, yeah. So it's very important. What I heard, I don't know if you agree with this. I don't remember where I heard this. I think I read somewhere that men want to feel respected and appreciated, and women want to feel seen and understood and heard. Uh, do you agree with the statement?
Absolutely. You hit the nail in the head. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Right? And if
Yeah.
we just know that even from this moment, as you now know, you might see the communication in a different way, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, it's very, very important for men to feel respected, as you said, because, yeah, I've seen this many times, it's my personal experience with my husband as well, because definitely he's a fixer. Every time when something is broken, he wants to fix it. But yes, that's what I also shared with him, a few times that, yes, it's not a time to bring solutions, especially if a woman is really like emotionally overwhelmed, especially if she's in the moment when she experienced lots of emotions, maybe later on, when there is a space for it, then yes, okay, maybe there will be a time to explore it, yes, but especially if it's something emotionally heavy. I don't advise to bring any solution. So I agree with you 100%. Victor, I feel like we could spend really lot of time talking on feminine energy, masculine energy, and differences between men and women because we are both passionate about this topic, let's be honest. And we both have so much experience. And honestly, I think this interview was mind blowing. Honestly, I'm so happy that you are here, that you accepted this invitation. I'm sure that all women will love it. So many people already requested a recording. I just wanted to say that I'm very, very grateful for this meeting. I wanted to say that we are thinking about creating something with Victor in the future, so we'll keep you updated. Victor, anything else you would like to share? Please let me know anything you'd like to add or say.
Yeah, like I think first of all, what's really important is that the work that you guys do is important, is changing the world. So I really mean that, because when you work on yourself, what happens is there is a ripple effect, right? When you treat someone else a little bit better, 1% better than last week or yesterday, that will make a difference for the other person. So I actually have had conversation with women who run women's group or thinking about running a women's group. Actually, now I have an innate women group as well, which just came out of necessity or like demand, but that's very in an infant stage. But like what I mean by this is that the way I see it is these kind of conversations, the work that you Magda do, the work that you guys do, really matter and really make the world a better place. Because as we talked about, for example, the relationships, as women become more conscious, men will become more conscious as well. So that work that you do has a ripple effect. And finally, what I would say is that everyone is high value. So we talk about high value man, and that's a bit of a cheeky expression because it draws people in. But the truth is that you are all high value, regardless of what you do. You are worthy, and all you need is just to see that, because everything else is a lie.
I love it. Oh, you're such a good speaker.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. It's so true. So true. Yes. Honestly, was such a good interview. And as I said, I'm so grateful. And yes, I hope we organize something soon because I'm sure that lots of people would like to see you more often in my community. And I love that you brought this different perspective, you know. Um, Yes, this perspective, men's perspective, but it's not just a man's perspective, you know, this authentic masculinity, it's a conscious perspective, you know. I think what you do brings lots of faith, you know, because as you said, you know, it's not just about women working on themselves or men working on themselves. We all need to evolve, you know. It's like it is a ripple effect, you know, when we are changing, also people around us are going through some changes and transformation and making lots of shifts. So I think that even this conversation, you know, honestly, can bring you know some inspiration, you know, for people who are listening, even for us, you know, because I also believe that you know we can learn from each other a lot and already even preparing for this interview was very interesting process. So honestly, I already feel inspired, you know, after doing this interview, and I hope you too.
Absolutely. Like all I can think of, I mean, I'm gonna go on
Yeah,
another call,
yeah.
but all I can think of, I would love to just go live and just share how inspired I am, because I think,
Mm-hmm.
what's interesting in this is that our work is very much the same and complement each other so well. So in a way, as I say, women's work, men's work, sisterhood, brotherhood, they are two sides of the same coin. So they are the same in slightly different color or costume, right? So yeah, this has been absolutely revelation. I really love from your love framework approach. That's something that inspires me a lot. And just being able to be in a different space where I'm actually asked by women what men think of, or how they work, and yeah, it has been an absolute privilege.
Thank you so much. Anyone watching now or watching the recording, please share your thoughts with us. Please just Leave some comments. Would love to hear your feedback. Thank you so much. Sending love to everyone. Thank you to you, Victor. Sending
Take
love to
care.
everyone.
Thank you so
Bye-bye,
much. Bye-bye.
everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.